This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
To get a transcript of today's show, plus all future transcripts emailed to you, go to offthechainshow.com.
Prepare yourself for the uncensored, nothing held back, no BS reality of how business and life really work. Doberman Dan is off the chain.
There's a reason I'm a writer, and you probably figured this out, Jonathan, after working with me for, well, how long?
We have been
79 episodes, right?
Yeah, nearly 2 years.
Here's why I'm a writer and not a speaker, because like you're constantly hearing me struggle to find the right word. Like I know what I want to say and I want to find the perfect word for it, but instead I'm like, that's why I'm a writer, man. As a writer, I have plenty of time to find the perfect word and then like substitute different words and think, no, this one sounds better. Or no, wait a minute. I should find a word that, I should get some alliteration going here. So, it's like, it's like, it's so much easier to be clever and sound intelligent and hopefully be amusing in print. But hey, we're doing a podcast, right? So it's improv. Life is a lot like jazz. It's much better when you improvise, right?
Yeah, man. So Dan, I don't notice that too often, and I have listened back to the shows, but now I'm going to start really being more judgmental on you.
Yes, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, please. There's no way you could possibly be any more cruel or judgmental than the voice in my head. But yeah, go for it. Yeah, what made me start thinking about this is because the last time we recorded, I was just struggling to find the perfect word, and I probably sounded like an idiot. Like, and it reminded me of being on the phone with this potential client, and what a dickhead, by the way.
Nice.
This guy says. So he says, well, here's what I want you to do. By the way, any copywriters listening to this, if anybody ever says this to you, that person is a grade A schmuck and run from them. So this is what he said. Well, what I need you to do, I need to see a piece of your writing. And what I need you to do is for you to write a piece for one of my products. And then I'm going to test it. Okay. And we're going to see how many sales we get. And from there, I'll determine what I'm going to pay you. And yeah, for sure, man. And, this was several years ago, but I still, was well known in the direct marketing community and still had a reputation, but so anyway, that's what this guy tells me. And my reaction was, what a dick, but I didn't say that. I probably should have. I'll say it now if somebody tells me that, and I didn't know how to respond. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's not really how I work, thanks for talking. It's been good talking with you. Bye-bye. And then like the next day, 24 hours later, I came up with a perfect comeback. This is how writers are. We come up with a perfect comeback or the funny thing to respond, but we come up with it like 24, 48, 72 hours later. So I came up with a perfect comeback. And I've been dying to use it all these years. And of course, now everybody knows better than to propose something like that with me. But the perfect comeback would have been, that sounds like a really good idea. And you know what? It works both ways. I'm going to need a sample of your writing too. It's called a check. You're going to write one to me. It's going to be $25,000 and you're going to sign it. And I'm going to test that. Here's how I'm going to test it. I'm going to take that down to the bank and deposit it. And if that clears, then I'll go ahead and write your test piece for you. Anyway, and that's why I'm a writer and not a speaker.
I like it, though. The handwriting sample on a check. I dig that.
Well, 10 years too late. Boy, I sure can be clever and entertaining when I have time to think about it. So let's talk conspiracy, shall we? Let's talk. If I were to entitle this, it would be the most heinous fraud ever perpetrated upon Americans. Does that sound conspiracy theory enough?
Absolutely. You got my interest.
Let me read to you a little news item that I've found. So, according to the Social Security Administration, the trustees project that the disability insurance trust fund, so this is Social Security disability, will be gone by the end of this year. We're talking the end of 2016. If lawmakers don't act before the trust dries up, citizens that receive disability payments will potentially have their benefits cut by at least 20%.
Wow.
So here's what that tells me. If this is a problem with Social Security disability, what's going to prevent that from becoming a problem with the general fund? So here's the thing, all right? Social Security was a fraud from the very beginning. It's nothing more than the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world, but it was sold to unsuspecting, good God-fearing, salt of the earth, trusting Americans who back then, thought their politicians were looking out for their best interests.
Sucker.
It is a lie. It's a Ponzi scheme. And the only reason it has worked as long as it has is because there were more people paying into it than taking out. Now, when that tide turns and it becomes 50-50 or worse, that's when Ponzi schemes always crumble. By the way, I forget the woman's name. The first recipient of Social Security was this little old lady who paid in one day. Like she paid in cents, a few cents, one day, and then qualified for retirement and collected a Social Security check for like 35 years until she died. This is a fraud. I mean, they tell you, oh, yeah, well, the money you're paying in, it's like, well, we put in a special account we set aside for you. Bullshit. The whole scheme is a fraud. It's eventually all going to come crashing down. It just saddens me that so many good people are relying on that for their retirement. You're delusional if you are. Or, depend on it now. Because this thing is the Titanic, man. And so this leak that they're reporting that could happen the end of this year, 2016, this could just soon spill over to the general fund. So here's, don't take my word for it, okay? This is what the Social Security Administration said in their 2015 annual report. Social Security's Disability Insurance Trust Fund now faces an urgent threat of reserve depletion, requiring prompt corrective action by lawmakers if sudden reductions or interruptions in benefit payments are to be avoided. Lawmakers need to act soon to avoid automatic reductions in payments to DI beneficiaries in late 2016. People who are disabled, by the people who are truly, legitimately disabled and collecting SSI disability, they are the last people who can afford a 20% reduction. By the way, there are, God knows how many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people scamming the system. When I was on the police department, all the frickin' time I ran across people that when I'm taking a report from them or, more likely arresting them, we got to ask their job or their profession. And it was always Social Security disability. And I'm a nosy bastard. So I always asked, really? You look pretty damn healthy to me. What's your disability? And all the time, this wasn't a handful of times, Jonathan, all the time I heard, well, I'm an alcoholic or I'm a drug addict. And I was a kid back then. I was in my early 20s, just thrown into the deep end of the pool there in the inner city. And I'm thinking, that's a disability? How is that did someone put a gun to your head and say, if you don't drink alcohol to excess all the time, I'm going to kill you and your family? Or, you must smoke crack. All right. Like a disability, you have a devastating injury and can't get a bed. I'll buy that. But an alcoholic, come on, man. Anyway,
That's scary.
So-
That's like encouraging them. Oh, you drink too
for those
much?
who are-
yeah, well, just pay for that shit.
Well, shit. Why didn't somebody tell me? I mean, I have been busting my ass in this entrepreneurial stuff for 30 years. It's as simple as becoming a drunk and I can get a steady check from the government.
Free beer money.
My God, look at all the time I've wasted. Yeah. So anyway, for the people who are legitimately disabled, which, by the way, another side rant, another rantings of a maniacal marketing person here, probably more like maniacal libertarian. What the hell does the government have any business doing distributing money to disabled people? Because they just screw it up. And it's just like most charities, it's just like United Way, so they take in $100 in donations. 99 of that goes to, operating costs, which is salaries. $1 of that goes to some other charity, and the government is even worse. So let's take your money at gunpoint. Okay, Jonathan, how much did you make last year? Well, okay, divide that, take 60% of that number and send it all in. And if you don't, we're going to come with guns and take all your stuff from you and force you out of your home and ruin you and seize your bank accounts and levy everything you do. Because you know what? There are people who are alcoholics and they need that money more than you do. So how the hell did the government get in the business of that? When did we give up when did we give them the power to do that? When it's always been as community. If my brother or sister legitimately can't work, I'm going to help them out. My neighbor, I'm going to help them out. This is how this country used to function. Okay. Because that is way more efficient. The $100 that I use to help out my disabled brother or neighbor, 100% of that goes to him. When the government takes it, like $99.99 goes to their crazy, insane, illegal schemes and in the pockets of politicians, and 1 penny goes to my disabled neighbor. Anywho, I'm getting totally off track here. So look, I'll stop beating the drum for against big government. I mean, I probably go off on that tangent too often, but I'm seeing a big problem here. This is a huge problem. People have been conditioned, brainwashed to depend on Social Security for their retirement. First of all, I mean, just look at the track record. There's no freaking way you can retire on that. And I mean, if you want to live in a cardboard box and eat dog food, have at it. That it'll support that. You can support yourself with that, but you can't depend on it. This is a pyramid scheme, a Ponzi scheme, and the pyramid is crumbling. It's been crumbling for the longest time. It is not sustainable. You cannot depend on them. We've got a track record here, okay? We've got 100-year track record if you want to go back to when they founded the Federal Reserve and started doing all this crazy stuff. And the track record is not good for you. It's really damn good for the politicians and the big corporations who bribe the politicians. Oh, I'm sorry. It's called lobbying. Excuse me. Wrong word choice. That whole system was designed by them for them. It screws you. And if you've been trained to believe that that's going to be there for you, well, you're going to be in a world of hurt really soon, man. You can't depend on them. You can't depend on them for anything, especially your livelihood and Social Security. Listen, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The only thing you can depend on is your ability to produce, okay? To create values, to perform a high value skill. That's why I personally have invested the past 21 years. I've specialized in direct response marketing. and being an entrepreneur and copywriter who uses direct response marketing. So I've spent 21 years of my life investing in that. God knows how many hours. I passed the 10,000 hour mark over a decade ago. I've invested, I haven't kept track of it, Jonathan, a lot of money in learning these high value skills and constantly learning and keeping on top of them. I mean, if we want to count the amount of money I've invested in my business projects, learning this stuff with my own money and learning it the hard way by screwing up and losing my money, well, now I'm into the millions of dollars of how much I've invested in copywriting, direct response marketing, understanding persuasion, sales, learning from the old good old fashioned belly to belly sales masters. God rest Stan Ballou, an old school sales trainer. Learned a lot from that dude. This stuff, that is your security. That is what you can count on. That can never be taken from you. Even if you, for some reason, wind up losing everything, like I have 4 different times. I can tell you how to avoid that. Now that I've done it only took me 4 times, Jonathan, to finally figure it out.
Good for you.
Or, God forbid, the jackbooted thugs kicking your door, levy your bank account, take everything from you, which unfortunately I've seen that happen to quite a few perfectly innocent people due to some clerical errors. If I don't want to scare the hell out of you, but let's just say if that worst case scenario happens to you, what you've crammed up into your noggin and have diligently worked at and invested your time and money learning those high value skills, that can never be taken from you. Listen, take away every cent I have. Take away every material possession that I had. Don't take my dog, please. God forbid, please don't. Except my dog, okay? Easy accept. Take all that stuff away. Put a parachute on me and drop me in some foreign country where I don't even frickin' speak the language. I will have what it took me 21 years to accumulate. If we're talking about material things, I will have that all back and more in a handful of years, because what I have chosen to invest in and what I know I can depend on, the investment I made in those high value skills. So listen, here's my advice. You can't depend on Social Security. There's already a big old, the Titanic has already hit the iceberg, man. It's not, is this thing going down? No. Oh, it's going down, brother. It's just, when is it going down is the question. Because it's a big ship. And the bigger it is, usually the longer it takes to go down. But it's been going down for a while. So listen, forget about it. Don't depend on it. What you paid in, well, it's gone. So lesson learned. My advice, start a part-time on the side, as I call it, KTB, stands for kitchen table business. All right. That's in addition to your job. Don't quit your job for the love of God, man. Another mistake I made before I was making enough money in my KTB. So start it in addition to whatever you do now. Work at it. It'll be fun. You'll learn. You'll make some mistakes. But start making some money in your own kitchen table business on the side. I don't even care if you have no dreams of doing anything big with your business. You want to keep your full-time job or your main business. Use this side part-time KTB. Use that to fund your retirement. You know why? Because you are in control of that. And if you keep it even at a humble level, okay, whatever that is for you, I'm just going to tell you, let's say you can pull $8,000 a month out of your part-time KTB of net profit that goes into your pocket. And that can be accomplished fairly quickly with my style of starting KTBs. just $8,000 a month. All right, you don't quit your job. You're not buying yachts or Ferraris. Yatchet, big fancy yachts. That's how it's actually pronounced. Yatchet. It's not yacht. Just like thing is pronounced thang. Just take my word for it. It's pronounced yatchet. So you're not buying yatchets and Ferraris and all that crap. You're not taking exotic vacations. You're living a nice, normal life, having fun with your part-time KTB, socking away $8,000 a month in, let's just say, index funds. All right. So maybe you can average 8% in those things. Listen, in a little bit more than 7 years, you got $1.1 million socked away for your retirement. And you know what that is, Jonathan?
What is it?
That is $1.1 million more than you ever gonna get from Socialist Security. So that's my advice. Forget about all those promises that politicians have made for decades. It ain't gonna be there for you. Start your KTB now. All right. Time to dig your well is when you ain't thirsty. So do it now.
Look at that. That's a rousing speech there, Dan. You said you're not a talker, and then you deliver that one. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Thank you, Dan, for giving us a little reality check. And thank you, K9 Crew, for tuning in. We will be back in your earbuds next week. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, to get a transcript of today's show emailed to you, go to offthechainshow.com.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.